Alright, guys, we are back breaking down UFC Fight Night Uriah Hall against Anderson Silva. Great week last week, profitable, not here to waste any time. So we're going to fly through these picks. Get into the first one here. Miles Johns, 1-1 in the UFC, is coming into this fight minus 160. He's coming off a pretty brutal loss to Mario Bautista, where he got flying kneed into another dimension. However, he is a strong wrestler, and that could give Natividad some problems. Natividad comes back, plus 130. It's his UFC debut. He's got really good submissions, despite only having one victory by submission on his record. He's coming off an impressive round 2 win over Kyle Estrada in the LFA. Neither of these guys are great on the feet, but I think Natividad has a slight advantage here, and that might be his key to victory. Miles Johns, if he gets on top of him, there's always the risk that Natividad can get him in a submission. Plus 130 seems like a really, really good price. I think you're only getting that because Johns has fought in the UFC. Natividad has not. Plus 130 looks like value to me. That's where my money's going to be on Saturday. Plus 130, Kevin Natividad. On to the next. Courtney Casey, minus 250 coming into this one. 5-7 in the UFC. But do not let that record fool you because she has fought some seriously good competition so far. She's got solid boxing, really solid submission game with 4 of her 9 wins coming by submission. Very solid fighter. I've liked what I've seen out of her, especially lately. On the other side, Priscilla Cachoeira, 1-3 in the UFC. She's been overall completely unimpressive. I still can't believe she fought Valentina Shevchenko. Seemed like a pretty fluky win last time against Dobson where she straight up knocked her out. Would be surprised if she's still in the UFC in a couple years. The only advantage Cachoeira has for me is that she may come into this fight the slightly bigger fighter. We are not yet able to see the weigh-ins, obviously. This is being recorded on a Thursday. She probably will have a slight strength and a slight size advantage. However, minus 250 on Casey because she's better in every area. I would take her. Seems like a fine price. You know, I'd probably get off her around minus 400, but minus 250 seems reasonable. On to the next. Dustin Jacoby, 0-2 in the UFC. Comes into this fight as a minus 334 favorite. Not something you're going to see every day. Minus 334, 0-2 in the UFC. But guy's got unreal kicking ability. He's a kickboxer. Will struggle with anything grappling-wise. And that's like a big key point in this one. If Ladette can do anything wrestling, anything grappling whatsoever, he's going to find success in this fight. Jacoby, cardio, doesn't seem all that great. Been able to watch 2-3 of his fights so far. Doesn't look fantastic to me. I think he's got a cardio issue. And he has also not had a proper UFC fight since 2012. These are the things you look at when you're backing a guy at minus 334. Tons of question marks right now. Kind of weird, kind of making me think I'm missing something here. Minus 334. We move on to Ladette. Ladette, plus 250. Great price. 3-3 in the UFC. Is primarily a boxer. And really needs to watch out for those leg kicks from Jacoby. Jacoby can just chop, especially earlier on in that first round, and slow Ladette down at all. You know, I don't know if anyone's bookie out there is giving up, plus $1 million on knockout by leg kick. This is one of those situations where that could happen. But on the other side, Ladette could straight up knock Jacoby out too. And at plus 250, that sounds pretty good. Ladette's had 3 losses in a row now. Johnny Walker, he's looking pretty solid. Rakic just beat Anthony Smith in a rout. He looks pretty good. His last fight against Cameron is definitely worrying, but you are getting a plus 250 price tag, which seems pretty darn good to me. There's our underdog, plus 250, Justin Ladette. That's where I'm going. If I'm missing something, I'm missing something. But I'm just telling you guys what I've seen so far. Jacoby probably should be slight favorite just based on matchup. But plus 250 seems nuts. So we're on to the next one. Started off with Cole Williams, 0-1 in the UFC, coming in here at plus 110 as a slight underdog. Got submitted last time out by Claudio Silva. Nothing to really hold your head in shame about, especially since that was a short notice fight. He has fought some pretty soft opponents, however. If you go back in his MMA career, I think I seen a guy that was like 1-4 that he beat. That's, that is what it is. Go back over to Witt, comes back at minus 138, 0-1 in the UFC. Got absolutely smoked by Takashi Sato last time. That was a very tough way to make a UFC debut for Jason Witt. Dude's got solid cardio, looking back on his earlier fights, and has some pretty decent wrestling that he could go to in this fight. Seems to have more solid all-around fighting resume, as I was alluding to before about Cole Williams. Maybe not having fought the toughest dudes in the world. The only thing about Witt, and, I'm okay to push this off to the side if I'm getting minus 138, given these two guys' skill sets. Jason Witt doesn't seem to be a big fan of getting hit. Pretty obvious statement, but he can buckle, and I have worries about his chin here. But at minus 138, I'm definitely going to take Jason Witt. I think there's definitely value there. He probably gets it done by decision if you want to try to get a much bigger price than what I'm saying at minus 138. But that's the way that I'm going. I'm probably just going to have a straight-up bet on Jason Witt on the money line come Saturday. Sean Strickland, minus 334 coming into this one. 7-3 in the UFC. Has taken a 2-year break. When you're laying minus 334 on a guy, that's a worry. Very solid boxing. Very technical. Very quick. Sean Strickland's boxing is very good. Has fought some elite competition with some real good wins on his record. He did get into, I think it was a bike accident, not a car accident. Got into a bike accident and it completely shredded his knee, apparently. That sucks. That's unfortunate. And those are things you have to think about when you're laying 334 on a guy. That's a lot of juice. And how is his knee doing? I think I said this in one of my previous videos. You can go on his Instagram. You can go on his Facebook, and he can tell you he's doing just fine. These knee injuries are very, very rarely. You don't usually have a guy coming back to being 100% what he used to be. Hopefully he does come back to 100% what he used to be. He used to be a pretty darn good fighter. Minus 334, that is stiff. But we'll move on to Jack Marshman, 3-4 in the UFC. Comes back at plus 250. He's just going to go out there and swing and pray. He's not a very technical dude. He's going to try to knock you out. Just because of the technical aspect of Sean Strickland's boxing, I don't see Jack Marshman landing that big overhand right or anything crazy to knock Strickland out. Minus 334. Just for the purposes of the video, that's where I'm going to go. I don't believe in Marshman at all. John Phillips type. They fought each other too. They're just going to swing. And if something lands. But I think minus 334 is probably somewhere close to where it should be. I'm not excited to bet it. I probably won't have money on it come Saturday. But for the purpose of the video, I'm going with Strickland. On to the next. So here we're moving on. Chris Grutzemacher against Alex Hernandez. Start with Alex Hernandez here, who comes in 3-2 in the UFC, coming in as a pretty massive favorite at minus 400. He is a solid wrestler. That's where the dude lives and dies. He tries to use his hands. Doesn't work for him. Uses his wrestling. Gets himself in the winner's circle. One question mark on Hernandez, especially as a minus 400 favorite, is that he has been TK'd in 2 out of his last 3 fights. That's not super fantastic. But He's a young fighter, and he was making some. You can tell he was making improvements. He's probably made some more improvements since his last start. Grigson on the other hand, plus 300, 2-2 in the UFC. He has been off for the last 2 years. It's kind of tough to know what you're going to get out of the guy. For me, based on what I've seen from both of these guys, this seems like a pretty straightforward win for Hernandez. He's probably just going to get the takedown and probably just finish the guy. That's kind of how I see it panning out. So, minus 400, that's not super exciting. But I wouldn't be opposed to taking Hernandez in the distance. I wouldn't even be opposed to taking a flyer on Hernandez in the first round. If he gets a takedown in the first minute or two, that could be a long rest of the round for Grigson. So I'm going to roll with Hernandez here. I probably won't have a money line play on him, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have an inside the distance on Alexander Hernandez bet come Saturday. I do like that quite a bit. So we are on to the main card now. We start off with Bobby Green coming in here at minus 334, 8-5 in the UFC. The number one compliment you can give to Bobby Green, he's really solid, all-rounded fighter. Decent striking, decent wrestling, decent everything. He's a solid UFC fighter. A lot more well-rounded than Thiago Moises is. So there's that. Minus 334. Again, these prices are a little bit brutal on this fight card. A lot of these guys who are big favorites, I think they should be favorite. But these odds are kind of out of control. I mean, this fight is closer than the odds would suggest for sure. Moises, plus 250. Massive price, given the spot. 2-2 in the UFC. Dude's got supreme Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But it is seemingly his only path to victory here against Green. He's not going to knock Green out. Maybe somehow he gets a decision win. That would seem weird. He was getting destroyed in his last fight against Michael Johnson. Very possibly was a 10-8 round against Moises in that fight against Johnson's last one. He ended up getting a heel hook in round 2. Got him the win. And this is kind of my thing with this fight. It's kind of why I like Moises. Don't feel like either of these guys is going to knock each other out. Moises very well might have plenty of opportunities here to submit Green over 15 minutes. And you saw how he got to Michael Johnson. He was really creative. He got a heel hook. I was like, damn. That dude wanted to win that fight, and he's going to have 15 minutes to submit Bobby Green. On the other hand, Bobby Green has not been submitted in a decade. So, it's kind of tough. But this is an odds play. If Bobby Green was minus 170, minus 180, I'd probably be betting on Bobby Green. But these odds aren't correct in my mind. And come Saturday, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a bet on Moises at plus 250. I don't think I'm going to make it a money line bet. I'm probably going to try to get a higher price on Moises just to win by submission, because I don't think it's actually possible for him to win any other way. So that is what it is. On to the next. This is an interesting fight. I just based on what I've seen out of Greg Hardy so far, kind of just want to fade him in perpetuity going forward. It's 3-2 in the UFC now. 6 UFC fights. That's a lot, given what it feels like. It feels like he got into the UFC yesterday. He's coming into this fight at minus 334. Like I said, I want to just perpetually fade the guy, because I think he's always overvalued. But I'm probably going to have a bet on Greg Hardy come Saturday, because I don't really believe in Maurice Green. Hardy seems to be getting better. Hardy was able to shut down Yorgan De Castro. Yorgan De Castro is better than Maurice Green. He's got an awesome nickname, the Crochet Boss. That's pretty sick. But, It was really funny watching Maurice Green's last fight against Gian Vellante. Gian Vellante came in looking like, Homer, and not the scholar, philosopher Homer. It was pretty brutal, and Gian Vellante had some, he had his spots in that fight where he didn't look terrible against Maurice Green, and Maurice Green is now fighting absolutely 100% elite athlete, and I honestly think Greg Hardy gets the knockout here. Kind of what we were waiting for. I think he's going to straight up knock him out, and I wouldn't even bother with the money line price. I don't think this goes to a decision. Somebody's getting knocked out, and I'm pretty sure it's Maurice Green. Andre Touchy-Feely against Bryce Mitchell. Start with Bryce Mitchell, who comes into this one at minus 150, 4-0 in the UFC. He looked unreal in his last fight against Charles Rosa. Must have taken the guy down like 25 times. Obviously, mostly a wrestling guy, BJJ practitioner all the way. But this minus 150 price tag, I don't know. This kind of feels like you're not run of the mill, but you always see these young prospects do really well early on, and everybody builds up all this hype, and then they let you down. This kind of feels like the letdown spot for me. Andre Touchy-Feely, 9-6 in the UFC, comes back at plus 125, which looks fantastic. He's fought a who's who in the UFC. He's got a ton of experience. I think, if this fight goes to the ground, Bryce Mitchell, very likely to win. But if Andre Feely's able to keep this on the feet, Bryce Mitchell's in some serious trouble. Like, he might get knocked out trouble. Touchy-Feely, solid striker. He's really good at mixing up his combos, and I do not think Bryce Mitchell has got the striking, at least what I seen from him last time, to be able to defend against Andre Feely. The odds seem wrong. Just straight up to me. I think Fili should be a favorite. Not a big favorite, but like minus 120, minus 130, something like that range. So that's where I'm going on this one. Andre Fili, minus 125. I like that quite a bit. The main event of the evening. Uriah Hall, 8 wins, 7 losses in the UFC. Comes into this fight instilled as a minus 225 favorite. Dude has fought some seriously high-level fighters like Robert Whittaker, Gegard Mousasi, Paulo Costa. So although he is 8-7 in the UFC, he's fought some pretty tough dudes, and he's given us some incredible highlights over the years. Uriah Hall, getting older. Definitely getting older, but not as old as Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva coming back at plus 187. 17 wins, 6 losses in the UFC. Now, this was my honest opinion here. The only thing that I wrote down for Anderson Silva is I hope he doesn't get hurt, because that would make me pretty sad. I think Uriah Hall is going to win this pretty easily. I am not convinced he's going to try to knock him out. I'm really not. I don't think he's going to Jared Cannonier him. I think I'm going to think about Uriah Hall by decision. But I think my biggest bet of the entire night is just going to straight up be on Uriah Hall at minus 225. Anderson's turning 46 soon. And, this isn't, it's fun to watch Tom Brady in the NFL. Huck a football around at, what is he now, 44, 43? This isn't, football. At least quarterback football. These guys have to go out there and hit each other. This is not going to be fun for Anderson, I don't think. Based on what I've seen lately, he's kind of an old man. It's really tough to make, a strong case for Anderson at this point. This just seems like an easy one to me. Minus 225 on Uriah Hall. It's so tough to make a make a case for Anderson. I would love to. Like, it's like my one hope in this fight is that Anderson doesn't get hurt, because he gave us some pretty awesome times. 10 years ago, the infancy of the UFC. He was the GOAT before all the new GOATs, but that's what I'm calling Uriah Hall. It might be basic. Everyone's on Hall, I guess. It's very possible I have a bet on Hall, and if Anderson Silva somehow wins, I'm still excited. But if I was telling a friend, hey, you want to bet on this fight, who do you think is going to win? It'll be Uriah Hall all day. I haven't came up with the method of victory yet, but Uriah Hall minus 225 does actually seem fine just by itself. But yeah, if you made it to the end of the video, we appreciate you. Follow us on social media. On the House Pick 1 for Twitter. On the House Pick straight up, same as our YouTube channel. On Instagram. And hopefully going to make it 3 for 3 on profitable weeks. And we will see you next week. Good luck this Saturday.